Thank you all for being here. This is the fifth summit that we've done. We started this in Sioux Falls, all in the spirit of just trying to bring attention to the importance of water in our communities. But the one more specifically that we were talking about was the Big Sioux River. And folks, I know I'm in Watertown and I'm thrilled to be here. But we're a pretty big city in Sioux Falls. We're growing about 5,000 people a year. And in fact, since I've been the mayor of Sioux Falls, we've added the city of Watertown onto the city of Sioux Falls in 7 years.
Wow.
And our primary source of water is the Big Sioux River. So dang it, we should actually care about water, don't you think, in Sioux Falls? We should. And then you had this mayor who also, who realized that for economic development purposes, you need water. If you're going to have people move into your town, you need water. But then also, you had this mayor who moved here from San Antonio back to South Dakota, who wanted to take that river that goes right through the heart of Sioux Falls and wanted to turn it into this destination point for tourism and put hotels near it and then take our downtown and make it more vibrant and have restaurants and bars and all kinds of activities near that water. But there was one problem. It's a big problem. This body of water that we're so blessed to have right in the heart of the city of Sioux Falls, which is our primary source of drinking water, definitely needed for economic development, wanted it to become part of our city in terms of tourism and driving all this fun stuff that we're doing. There's a big problem. The Big Sioux is impaired. It is. I mean, there's all kinds of fecal matter that is in our Big Sioux. There's all kinds of other bad stuff in our Big Sioux, whether it be excess fertilizers or this chemical or that chemical. There's these things that are in that water, and the popular thing for years in South Dakota and in Sioux Falls, the popular thing was to blame who?
Farmer.
Say it louder, please. Farmers. Blame farmers, blame ranchers, blame those people. They're the ones who are causing the issues for the Big Sioux River, Skunk Creek, and Missouri River, all these bodies of water. Certainly, certainly ag has an impact in terms of some of the challenges that we face with our waterways. But so does Sioux Falls. I kicked this thing off 5 years ago. 5 years ago, I kicked this thing off in a pretty dramatic fashion. Media, I don't know if they loved it or not, but I did it. The day before the Big Sioux River Summit, the mayor's Big Sioux River Summit, what I did is I grabbed my fertilizer spreader, grabbed it, one arm, lifted it up, told the crowd, I said, I polluted the Big Sioux River yesterday. This big city mayor. I polluted the Big Sioux River yesterday, and I did. I use Scott's fertilizer, okay? I do. My father-in-law taught me how to use Scott's fertilizer. Not only do I do one application, I do four. Unnecessary, but I do four. And I put the edge guard on there so that most of it doesn't go onto the curb and the gutter, but I know I don't get it all. And so if it rains, that fertilizer that I put on my lawn in the spirit of making it as green and lush as I could is going into the Big Sioux River. The mayor pollutes the Big Sioux River. Farmers and ranchers, yes, we pollute the Big Sioux River. These big businesses, large and small, they pollute the Big Sioux River. We have people that are walking their dogs along our bike trails. We have 26 miles of bike trails. We have 80 parks in our town. We want a park within a half mile of every home in our town. And we have people who, their dog poops and they don't pick it up, and that poop can go into the Big Sioux River. We started this 5 years ago in the spirit of not trying to blame everybody, but we started this to get people to talk about this stuff. to talk about how we all need water, and I think the doctor definitely outlined that. We all need water, but we're also all responsible for dirtying it, making it dirty, making it impaired. We all are, every one of us, including the big city mayor. The good news, and I'm glad these young people are here, the good news is that we're also all responsible for making it better. Talking about this, challenging each other, making some people mad. Haters are going to hate, and they do. And there's a lot of them that hate on this topic. Okay? But we got to keep fighting. We got to keep doing good things, all in the spirit of making a difference, not only for us now, but for the younger generation, for my grandson, George, baby George. And do you have any grandchildren yet, Mayor?
Not yet.
You don't? Okay. For your grandchildren, they're coming. And so, anyways, 5 years ago, we started this venture. It's been a lot of fun. This is one of the best crowds that we've ever had in terms of, at least at the end with the Q&A, and I wasn't here earlier. So I'm proud of you, Watertown. I'm proud of you, this area of South Dakota and North Dakota and Minnesota. I'm really proud of you for being here. I just love it. I don't know if the media's here from Watertown, but if they are, thank you as well, because you're going to help us spread the word on what we did here today and why I believe it's important. We went to Brookings. Now we're going to close it out. At least I'm going to close it out in Watertown. I'm done. I get kicked out of here in about 7 months. But what I would ask is that I hope that you folks continue this. Mayor, I'm going to hand off the baton, and then this mayor, the next mayor of Sioux Falls, they can go out and try to help make good things happen, along with all the other mayors along the Big Sioux River. So I can talk all day. You don't want to hear that. But we do want to answer questions, and we can answer any question that you want involving being in public service, how it impacts Watertown, how it impacts Sioux Falls, some of the scrutiny that we get, how hard it is, but also why it's worth the battle. We can talk about drainage, we can talk about parks, we can talk about climate change, and maybe before, I'm going to hand it off to you in 1 second. Figure this out. I've been the mayor for 7 years. 7 years in Sioux Falls. Want a little reality check? Since I've been the mayor, we have had 3 100-year rain events. What that means, it gets better. We've had 3 100-year rain events. What that means is that this rain event is only supposed to happen once in every 100 years. We've had 3 of them in 7 years. Oh, but it gets better. Doctor, we've also had 1 300-year rain event since I've been the mayor. Oh, it gets better. A year ago, we had our very first 1,000-year rain event in the city of Sioux Falls. And then, a week and a half ago, we had our second 1,000-year rain event in the city of Sioux Falls. Oh, do you remember there was this ice storm? Remember the ice storm? Remember that? That all happened in 7 years as I was the mayor. And it's only supposed to happen once every 1,000 years at the most. This is real. We had 7 inches of rain in about 4 hours period, 4-hour period of time. That's insane. It's insane, but it's happening. So this topic, it is real. One of the very first things I went to the doctors, I went up to them and I said, I believe in what you're saying. And it's not popular for a public servant to actually say that publicly, but I believe. I believe. Because it's real. It's impacted my town that I love at the highest level in a major way. 3 100-year rain events, 1 300-year rain event, 2 1,000-year rain events, and a monster ice storm that was the biggest environmental challenge that we've ever had in our entire city's history, and you remember it well. So please, ask us any questions. The tougher, the better. I mean, anything, the tougher, the better. And Mayor, thanks so much for hosting this today. Bless you.
You're welcome.
Yeah, thank you.
Thanks for starting it.
My
This is
pleasure.
awesome.
Welcome. Anything, come on.
I'm Melissa Hittner. I teach environmental science in Sioux Falls. These are my students from New Tech High in Sioux Falls. They are doing a project where they're going to create a community awareness project to help improve the health of the Big Sioux River. So I was wondering if you had any ideas for them that they can take back and start planning a community awareness project.
Mayor.
I would say social media, you utilize it, you're plugged into it, that's going to hit your age group better than anything else. That'd be my first suggestion.
Well, I would suggest anything that you think would really capture the attention of the masses, and I would make it fun. We've done a variety of different things in Sioux Falls, such as we take all of our, where the water drains into after a rainstorm, we paint all those with beautiful paintings and sayings that people enjoy. But we've got other things where we've got the now we've got river parties that we do right there along the Big Sioux. Everybody's having a good time, but there's also a bunch of people there. There's thousands and thousands of people there, so it's a great opportunity for you to engage them in just a big way with something fun. And I wouldn't be afraid of it. People do understand now more and more just how important that water is that's going through Sioux Falls. So I just commend you for doing it, but have a great time. Yeah. Thank you.
Yeah, make it fun.
Yes, Zach. Thank you.
So what efforts has both the city of Sioux Falls or Watertown made in the way of clean river practices? A lot of the sessions were about rural communities and the effects of buffer strips and those sort of things, but I didn't hear a lot about within the city limits. What are some of the ordinances, rules, programs that you do utilize that help keep the river clean, and what are some programs that you would like to see?
Okay. We're a smaller community, so we have less stringent rules than Sioux Falls would have. They're far more sophisticated than we are, but they have everything we have plus more. So I'll tell you what we have, which is we have ordinances that are for construction site runoff control. We have an ordinance for illicit discharge, which is to keep pollutants out of the storm drainage system and out of the streams. And we also have what we call our post-construction ordinance, which controls long-term non-point pollution that comes from just everything in town. If you have a big enough site, which would include, a single building maybe that's a large commercial development, or a subdivision of individual homes that cumulatively reaches a certain threshold, there will be a water quality control facility required to collect the runoff and clean it before it's discharged into the storm drainage system. And so everybody lives in a watershed. Every single piece of land drains somewhere. It's in some watershed, and some of them drain internally and just go into the groundwater directly, and most areas drain ultimately to the Big Sioux River. And so we control it all. If you're disturbing the ground and creating a large enough project, we're going to require that you treat the runoff from it to protect the water. Those are laws that the federal government required us to pass, and we are in compliance with that. And we're called a Phase 2 community, and so that's our level of requirement. You're a Phase 1 community, so you have more.
First of all, the gentleman who asked the question, he's actually running for city council in the city of Sioux Falls. So that's a big deal. Actually having a council candidate, a mayoral candidate who's in the back of the room, having them here is a big deal if they actually care about this topic. So I commend you for being here. Secondly, there's a bunch of things that we do. I could talk about this one probably a full hour. I'm not going to do that. But I would highly recommend anybody who's interested, talk to your public works team, talk to your environmental team. They can give you a crash course on all the things that Watertown is doing, all the things that Sioux Falls is doing to try to address this topic. I'm going to touch on just a couple of them. Number one, we actually have similar rules, similar codes, similar ordinances. One of the big things that we're doing in Sioux Falls, though, we're actually trying to enforce them. What a concept. What a concept. And it's not popular. It's not popular.
It is not popular.
Thank you, Mayor.
I will.
Come here. Did you get that?
It is really unpopular to enforce those
No,
rules.
you want us to do that again? Sorry, you're late. No, it's not popular. Again, when you're a public servant and you actually hold people accountable to the laws, to the rules, to the ordinances that the council or the commission passes, oh boy, what are you doing? Come on, we've been doing it this way for years, Mayor. Yeah, but it's not right. It's not right. So in Sioux Falls, we've been enforcing it, we've been monitoring it, and when we find something, we are on them like stink on you know what. And it's a good thing. It's a good thing, but it's not popular. It's not popular. Number two, we are doing some things where we're collaborating with farmers, with ranchers, with people upstream, and we're actually investing taxpayer dollars into different partnership activities which are adding more buffer strips, more filter strips along the waterways as they're coming in to Sioux Falls. And then there's many others. But the one that I get the most heat on is this one. Get ready, Watertown people. And if you haven't heard about this, you probably will. Here's the one that I get the most heat on. In Sioux Falls, and I know where Councilor Kenny Anderson Jr. feels about this one, and I completely disagree with you. So here we go. Here's what's happening in Sioux Falls. When I was elected mayor, we used to mow everything in the city of Sioux Falls. Everything. Drainage way, we mowed it. Any type of green space near it, we mowed it. We would mow our Big Sioux River. We would mow all the way to the bitter edge. And then we'd mow for blocks up, even away from the river, we'd mow it. One of the very first things I did, I said, no, let's not do that. It's not good for our environment. The way that water actually gets filtered naturally is when you allow those grasses, those other plants to grow. And then when it rains, it filters naturally before it goes into this lake or into the pond or into the stream or into the river. That's the way it works. So we stopped mowing. We stopped mowing in some of those areas, especially the drainage areas, or we stopped mowing it. Then we stopped mowing around the Big Sioux River. And oh my, you can't imagine the grief that man took, right over there. Raise your hand. Yes. The grief that he took and the grief that I took along with others when we started to stop mowing it. But here's the good news. The good news is that eventually those complaints, those concerns, they stopped. I can't remember the last time I've had a complaint on it until just recently. Because there's a couple of people who want to make it a campaign issue. Because I'm done. I'm done in 7 months. And now they want to make it a campaign issue. Okay? I say bring it on. And I'll say this. I guarantee, make it a topic. You tell people that you don't want it, that you want to start mowing everything, and you let them know then tell them the truth. But they'll forget this part when they're doing their little message. They won't tell them how it's going to impact the waterway. They won't tell them that. They won't tell them that. But again, remember, hey, city slickers. You can blame the farmers and the ranchers all day when they allow the cattle to go into the creek, the cattle to go into the lake, the cattle to go into the river. You can blame them all day for doing that, for not putting a filter strip or a buffer strip along those waterways. But then when the city slickers in Watertown and Brookings and Sioux Falls, when we don't do it, we're just as much to blame. A little passionate on this one, can you tell? Can you tell? I just am. And because, again, you take these heats, this heat as a public servant, but again, if you want to do the right thing for not only this generation, but for generations to come, you do have to make some tough decisions, and I think it's all been worth it.
The one thing that we do that I didn't mention is we purchase land adjacent to streams, and that has a whole bunch of benefits for everyone. Leaving it in a natural state allows the runoff to be cleaned on its way, and like Dr. Ott said, nature does it best. We can't duplicate a wetland in the lab and make it happen. I mean, we've got treatment plants. They don't work anything as well as Mother Nature. So if we can keep our drainage courses in the open state, that's a huge benefit to everyone, and it's sustainable. It does mean that people have to look at cattails sometimes, and they don't like that. They don't like seeing the open water because mosquitoes might breed there, but in reality, there are so many important functions that water courses have, and by keeping them open, we're providing a service to water quality, but also to flood control and habitat. There's a lot of different things. Plus, we save money.
Yeah.
And that's probably the easiest way to sell it, is that how much does it cost to put that stuff in pipes? Pipes are more expensive than swales. And also, mowing is very expensive. Leaving it alone, like nature intended it to be, is less expensive. So that's probably a good way to sell it.
When we first started it, thank you, students, for being here. Drive safe to Sioux Falls. And thanks for being in Sioux Falls. We need you. And then when you graduate, you stay in Sioux Falls, dang it. You got 5,000 job openings. I need workers. So thank you. When we first started this program 5 years ago, and we took that heat, then to make it worse, it didn't rain. And so what's the only thing that comes up when it doesn't rain? Weeds, and even worse yet, thistles. And so, here we are, we started this program, and we had to try to educate people in terms of, hang on, it eventually, it'll choke the weeds out, it'll choke the thistle out, we'll work towards it. And now, for the most part, it's quite beautiful. I think it's beautiful. Others may think it's ugly. I think it's beautiful. And Mayor, it sounds like you may think it's beautiful too.
I do think
I love it. I love it. Thank you. Keep it coming. Thank you. Welcome. Welcome.
I just want to touch on 82S had a great presentation about the money it takes for this water to get where it needs to get to in the treatment. And I want you guys to both kind of touch on, for the public reasons, how much it really does cost and how much it really ends up saving the city when you're treating it before it gets into the system or into the water, where then you may have to treat it.
Well, first of all, treating is harder to do than preventing. Treating is far more expensive and impossible at times. So if you can prevent the pollution from occurring in the first place, you're going to save a ton of money in the long run. And so that should always be our top priority, to prevent the pollution from getting there. Once it's there, very, very, very difficult to treat. And some of the chemicals and pollutants that we face today, we don't even know how to treat them. The pharmaceuticals, and if we're taking away the wetlands that take those things up and make them not harmful anymore, we can't do that with mechanical treatment. So I don't have any numbers. I don't know if
So I don't either. I don't have any numbers, but it's unbelievably expensive. That is for sure. But I think one of the things we do, we kind of take it for granted that we're going to have good, clean water. But it is very, very expensive, as the water team in Sioux Falls knows. But I just think it's a great investment. The governor of South Dakota, he's now made some strides to help in this effort by providing some incentive to get some filter strips and some buffer strips along our waterways. He hasn't mandated it like they do in Minnesota, but at least they've made some strides. I said this yesterday to the press in Sioux Falls, and I mean it sincerely. The investment is real. It is. But to me, one of the very first things that I would recommend is that we, at a minimum, we have a 5 foot, just 5 feet buffer strip or filter strip along the waterways of South Dakota, 5 feet. And I know that sounds crazy because in Minnesota it's got to be 50 or so. So just 5 feet. But what that does is if we would do that, then you couldn't allow something to go into that river or into that waterway and potentially cause it harm. And so, Sioux Falls, we would have to have a buffer strip along all the waterways that we've got. Farmers, ranchers, big towns, small towns, we'd have to do the same thing. Now, that would be an investment, and it would be big. It would be. Because, right now, I'm a business guy. I'm a corporate America guy. I was driven by profit. So, the corporate America guy is going to tell a farmer or rancher that they can't also have that same incentive to try to improve their bottom line. And so for us to tell them that they got to take this land and take it out of production in the spirit of protecting our water, that is a huge investment on that farmer and rancher's part. And so that is one of those things that we're going to have to talk about, whether it be the big city boy from Sioux Falls, the mayor from Watertown, or that farmer and rancher from Eureka or Tripp or Volga or Clear Lake. It's all a huge monster investment, but it's worth it. We've got no choice. We've got to do something quickly.
I want to make another plug for the Upper Big Sioux Watershed Project. I talked about that at the beginning of the day today. That program is awesome. It's partners in the watershed coming together and working together toward water quality. And in the 20 years that it's been in force, we've really seen some benefits. And we can see cleaner water already. And it's really, in the grand scheme of things, 20 years is not a lot of time. But we've done a lot. And the Watershed Project has worked with the farmers and done things out in the outside of town before the water gets to Watertown. But they've also done a few things in town and paid for some work to be done in our urban environment. And I'd like to see more and more of that done because that benefits everyone, and it makes for a more livable community, a more sustainable environment. So I know there are other watershed projects up and down the Big Sioux, but I mean, ours is amazing, and I hope it continues.
Good job. Yes, sir. Welcome. Mike. So great to have you here.
Thank you for this opportunity. I don't usually get a chance to congratulate you, Mayor Heath, on what you've done for Sioux Falls. I was in Sioux Falls teaching at O'Gorman, looking across 41st Street, there was nothing there. And I was pastor at St. Lambert's, and I biked down to the river every day. And it's what you've done for the river there has been tremendous. And there is a question coming at the end here.
Let him keep talking.
Anyway, I share that congratulations with our new mayor, Mayor Karen, and she's got the vision and the enthusiasm and the talent to really make this a bubbling, developing city here.
Thank you.
You mentioned the big contribution that we make from Watertown in terms of water, and I tell my friend Monsignor Doyle that if you don't shape up here and pay a little respect for Watertown, we're going to cut off your water. But not only do we offer you water, but we offer you our people, our professional people. They get a good job here, they get a better job in Sioux Falls. And I don't know what you could do, but somehow or other acknowledge, first of all, that we are here in Watertown. And secondly, maybe some recognition that would acknowledge the contributions that we make, not just in terms of football, but in terms of, economics. And anyway, so thank you very much for being here today. Jerome Holtzman, Terry Holtzman.
Thanks for the kind comments, and I know that Mayor Karen believes the same, so thank you. when I was elected mayor in Sioux Falls in 2010, one of my goals was to really kind of help break down that perception that West River versus East River. That was always a big one. But then also Sioux Falls against the world, and vice versa, especially in Pierre, for example. And I really have tried to make that a reality, because here's the way it works. When Sioux Falls does well, certainly South Dakota does so much better. But when South Dakota does well, Sioux Falls definitely does better. And that is the way that we need to work together, ultimately to get things done. And that's why we, even this 5-year process in terms of talking about the Big Sioux River, we did go on the road, whether it be Brookings or Watertown or Del Rapids mayors or whatever it would be. We invite all those mayors to come in the spirit of let's work on this together. Now, certainly, we probably do get more attention because of the media markets that are there, but we will not take for granted, at least since I got 7 more months, we will not take the rest of South Dakota for granted. We won't. And we do need all to work together on all these things. And at the same time, folks, please understand, I'll give you an example. There's Garth Brooks and Trisha Yearwood in town. They're in town. Well, most of the people that are attending the 9 sold-out shows, they are from out of town. And so that's a good thing. It's a good thing for Sioux Falls, but it's also a great thing for South Dakota in this area. And what's so fun is that I'll have most of the folks that say thank you to me, they are from Watertown and Brookings and Rapid City and Pierre. So again, thank you. We are trying to acknowledge more and more people in terms of their benefit to Sioux Falls and vice versa. But why are you here? Why are you interested in water? What's that all about?
I happen to be appointed by the bishop as Chicago.
Really? To come to this conference or to come to Watertown? Yeah, that I get. No, I get that part. Thank you, Father. But why do you care about water?
He's just a cool guy.
Because I live on Lake Kampesca, yes, for one thing. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, no, I benefit the beautiful advancement they've made on Lake Kampesca. It's one of the most beautiful lakes in the state. And also I drink water. And so I've been...
You make it holy, too.
I use it occasionally.
He does. He makes it holy, which is, if you're Catholic like I am, it's a big deal.
Yeah, I do bless it occasionally, too. But, but anyway, no, I find this tremendously exciting today, just to be a part of what's going on in terms of the very things that you've represented here, and I'm grateful for that. So.
Mayor, you and I have talked about this before, but the low-impact development, especially for urban development, and what's being done, I know Andy's trying to incorporate it there in Sioux Falls, but it's also the developers' choices to do that. The thing is, we've convinced the farmers of the need for good soil health and maintaining the soil structure, but yet we go to the urban areas and they strip off a hill and they put back 2 to 3 inches of black dirt on top of solid clay. So all that fertilizer that's being put out there, the chemicals that are being applied, all that is directly dumped into the sanitary or into the stormwater sewer system. And they don't even know it. They're losing all that minerals and everything else, the fertilizer they put down, and yet it's all polluting the water. So how can we encourage the urban areas to do less land disturbance to develop, especially the residential areas? Now, I understand a parking lot or streets is, there's exceptions you got to make. But on residential development, there should be very little need for a large land disturbance.
I can say, I've been in public works for over 30 years. I've been pondering that question the entire time, and it is very difficult without incentives to get people to do low-impact development. And I, for one, am in favor of offering incentives if that's what it takes. We, in the Upper Big Sioux Watershed Project, we do give incentives. The farmers don't do it completely at their own cost. They get some help from tax dollars. And I think we should do that in urban environments as well. And, you know, if you see one development doing it and people like it, or they get used to it anyway, then you're more likely to get more and more and more. We need to plant the seed. And we aren't doing that right now, but I would like to. Are you doing that?
Well, everything that this man said is spot on. And in my 5 years, or in my 7 years as mayor, it has only gotten worse. Who said exactly? Because you're right. It's only gotten worse. Since I've been the mayor, we've had 5 straight years of record-breaking construction. Broke a record, broke it again, broke it again, broke it again. Media, are you ready? Councilor Anderson Jr., we're going to break it again. And so there's all this enthusiasm, all this motive, you know, all this excitement about the record-breaking development. You know, homes being built here, new businesses there, new bars, new restaurants, new event centers, new indoor pools, new city administration buildings, $180 million hospital there, a $50 million investment there. All this is going on. And so for a mayor or a councilor or anyone to now try to put some additional requirements to, all in the spirit of improving soil health or water quality or whatever, it's not very popular. And the reality is that it's really hard to get that implemented. We are a libertarian state here. Don't tread on us. Don't tread on me. Don't give me any more rules. Don't give me any more laws. You know, just leave me alone and let me do. You know, let the free market kind of work itself out. Okay, that's the way we are here. I mean, it's one of the reasons why I kind of like it here. However, trying to add restrictions on building or investing or growing or developing, it's very, very, very unpopular in South Dakota and in Sioux Falls. But we do still make some strides. Councilor Kenny Anderson Jr., who's in the back of the room, and I kind of went at him hard on this one topic with NOMO. We agreed on just about all the things over our 6 years in terms of working together. It was very, very rare that we disagreed, and I'll never forget him because of it. One thing that the Council of Sioux Falls has demanded, and I hope they continue it, is if it involves drainage and it involves development and drainage, they're pretty sticklers on. They want to know from that man there and his team, what are they doing to ensure proper drainage and things like that. And it hasn't been the most popular with some of the developers, but it's still not near as far as we need to go or should go. But and then the mayor said, you got to offer incentives. So, council candidate, mayor candidate, how are you going to offer incentives when sales tax revenues are softening? When you're just trying to find a way to, fix those potholes, keep those libraries open, pay those medical bills for your employees and stuff like that. It's not a good time to be talking about incentives, but that is probably what we're going to ultimately need to do. Again, there's all these things that we want to do, but then there's the reality as public servants in terms of what you really can do. And then, there's always the battle. Some folks believe this way, others believe that way. You try to find common ground, but every time you're in that middle, you made people really mad here and you made people really mad there. Every time. And I always wanted to find the common ground, and I had to take hits from both sides on the common ground issues. So thank you. Sorry, but it's really hard. We lost ground as I was your mayor on that effort. We talked about it, we wanted to do it, and there was no chance in heck that it was going to happen when we had all this momentum going. And you're mad at me.
That's public information. I mean, getting that word out to the developers when they're developing it, what they're doing to create the additional pollution when they go to develop a large area, if they're not leaving as much of the soil intact as it is. Now, again, parking lots, streets, I'm not talking about them. I'm talking urban or housing developments. And my kids that live in town, when they want to go plant a tree, they dig down 3-4 inches and they hit solid clay, so we got to haul in a whole pickup load of black dirt for that tree to be able to survive in that backyard.
Yeah, but the argument is, and I love it, the argument is, if we make the developer put in more black soil before they, build that home, what do they say? They will take that expense, and what will they do with it? They'll add it on, which makes the price of the home more expensive. Housing in Sioux Falls is already, it's becoming a more expensive place to live. And so then you've got that argument. So what ultimately comes back is, if that homeowner wants more soil, they should make the decision, and then they should pay for it. That's that argument. And that's where you really get into trouble as a public servant, because you want to do things based on the good of the whole community. But in reality, there's these, individual needs and wants and beliefs, and that's where you struggle. So good job. Don't give up the fight.
But I'll go back to your
we're going to stop there. Thank you. Because anybody else have any questions? Please, thank you.
How does the annexation process and the expansion of city boundaries play into this? Could a little more selectivity in what's allowed as far as land being annexed into a city have, like for instance, we have the development on the northeast part of Watertown, as an example where, there's no, I don't think there's basements under some of those homes. It's kind of a wetland area, really. Yes. And I'm just kind of wondering how you balance annexations, because that could solve some of these problems, possibly.
We have traditionally in Watertown tried to facilitate development wherever it was, and consequently, we have developer-driven community, and it's sprawled. Yeah. And that isn't efficient. That's not sustainable. That's extra pavement for roads to get out there. When one of the things I want to do, I've only been mayor for 2 months, so you've been mayor for 7 years, but one of the things I would like to see is to try to offer a zoning that would allow for more dense individual single-family developments. I mean, we've got the apartment areas, we got that part down, but our minimum lot size is pretty large. And if we allowed for smaller lots, we could get more in an area and not have to sprawl out so far, and encourage the redevelopment in areas of our town that are blighted or people are moving out of into these newer parts of town. Our boundaries have grown a lot in 20 years, and our population hasn't really gotten that much greater. So it's people from the inside of the town moving to the outside. It's not really people moving in. I mean, we've had some growth, but we're seeing people spreading out, and that isn't sustainable.
We have developer-driven growth too, I would say. I would say that too. It's not we're not anti-development, we're not anti-developer, not anti-investor, not anti-builder in Sioux Falls. In fact, we're pretty pro all of that, because we believe it really helps keep this engine just humming. But here's something that happens in Sioux Falls, and it's really happened even as I've been the mayor, because of 5 straight years of record-breaking construction. Even with all these big rain events and concerns about drainage and improving our water lines, our sewer lines, and all that, because we don't want sewage backups in home. What we're doing in Sioux Falls, and you can see it, Father, you'll see it. We've taken so many natural waterways or drainage ways where there were cattails and natural filters. And what we did is the developers came in, they filled them up, and then our requirements are, well, you can do that, you just have to now have another drainage capacity, or you have to meet the drainage requirements. But I guess the challenge is, did we lose or did we win there? We certainly won in terms of the development, but did we lose in terms of the overall goal, in terms of improving our water quality or our drainage or our drainage or our soil because we built a parking lot and a 5-story apartment building or a bunch of brand new homes in an area that used to be a wetland?
I guess that's part of my question is that in those poor decision areas, are the cities obligated to play ball and to support services? I mean,
No, we're not.
Just very unpopular not
Yes,
to.
we are not. And,
You get
and
voted
Councilor
out.
Anderson Jr. knows this very well. We are not obligated. I mean, we have to approve the zoning. We have to approve getting the water line and the sewer line we have to approve all that. But it has been very rare that we've not approved a project based on that topic, filling in a waterway. Now, there have been a couple, I think, Councilor Kenny Anderson Jr., but it's rare. And again, it's not we're not trying to be, I don't want to blame the developer. It's just reality. In Sioux Falls and in Watertown and in Brookings and in places like that, I guess the Del Rapids mayor's here. Where's the Del's mayor? Maybe very good. Mayor, welcome. Thanks for being here. Del Rapids, they're busier now than they've ever been because of the development that we're having. And that is something that as a public servant, you really don't want to stop. But then there's that balance again. How do you find that balance? But in Sioux Falls, we've not been allowing everything. It's not a free-for-all, but developer is probably more of a developer-driven market than what it has been.
My name is Jim Panella, and I'm here as a part of the Eyes of Walton League.
Sure. Hi, Jim.
And maybe some of you know, some of you don't. We're sort of our model is, trying to keep the lakes, streams clean. That's our model. One of the things that we see, we're sort of a watchdog. We see things happen, and not only in urban areas, Watertown specific, but also in the rural areas. So when we see infractions, many times we bring those to the attention of authorities. Nothing seems to get done. Enforcement's our biggest issue. Nothing seems to be getting done. I don't know how quite to get that done. Where do we go when we can't get something, when we bring it to someone's attention?
And Jim, I'm going to start this one. Because you're from up in this area. Yep. Yes, very good. And Jim, first of all, I love the passion and thank you for what you're doing. The only place I'm going to push back a little bit, okay, and I'm just going to beg you, don't use the word nothing. I'm just going to beg you. Because until you're in this role as the mayor of Watertown or the mayor of Sioux Falls, we hear that word all the time, nothing. And in reality, there is all this stuff that we're trying to do. You're pushing that monster rock up the hill. You're dealing with the haters and the critics and the naysayers or the policies or the laws or the anti-change people or the media or whatever it is. And it's just so much difficult when you're in the arena than what maybe you believe from the outside. And so I don't know the mayor that well. This is only the second time I've met her, but I'm going to kind of try to protect her just a little bit as she goes into this battle, because I know the history of Watertown. I know the history of the battles that occurred when it involved water and lakes and drainage and this and in that. And I know that it's a important but sometimes volatile topic here in Watertown too. What I would encourage you to do, Jim, is stay in the fight, keep communicating the facts, and yes, if you think that government is going to do all this stuff on its own, you're sorely mistaken. We need the eyes and the ears of the public to help us find these things that are not being adhered to or they're doing something wrong, and then give us the opportunity to go in there and try to enforce it. But the mayors learned very quickly, enforcing the laws, enforcing the rules, enforcing the ordinances, oh boy, it's very unpopular. Especially in an environment where it was allowed to be lax for years. Mm-hmm. Yeah.
The public needs to demand it. And so if you stay silent, who is going to demand it? You're all here. You care. Thank you for coming. Make your voice heard. When you see a struggling city organization trying to enforce an environmental regulation and being quashed by other interests, speak up. Demand that the environment be protected, because the regulations are in place because you asked for them. And if you're not making noise when they're pushed aside, who will? So just keep up the fight and let your voice be
But Jim,
heard.
I really appreciate it. Keep fighting, and please be those eyes and ears. You do have a new mayor, a new sheriff in town, and so give her a shot. I don't know about your council, or is it commission? What is
Council.
it? Council. I don't know about your council. I don't know how passionate they are about the topic, but in Sioux Falls, we've had a good run. I think that for the most part, we've had a team. It may not appear that way in the Argus Leader or in Kello all the time, but for the most part, I think we've had a good team that has cared about water, Doctor, and we've made some inroads there, but we still have a lot more work to do. Jim, follow up, sir? Good job. Thank you. Keep fighting. Keep fighting. Others? Thank you. Welcome.
For Mayor Huther for Sioux Falls. So you mentioned the extreme rainfall events that have occurred in your area. What has the city done then as far as planning or preparedness for the next event? As understand there will be next events and infrastructure or other ways.
Where are you from?
And I'm in Aberdeen. I'm the state
Aberdeen.
climatologist.
Love it. Well, I thought you were from Sioux Falls because that was a nice setup. Thank you. Thank you. Folks, no kidding. I was the mayor. I was just elected the mayor. I had been the mayor for probably 3 months, and I'm driving. I just got done. I had a meeting at the mall, the Sioux Empire Mall. I'm driving down Western Avenue, and I get this call from my assistant. Said, "Mayor, you got to hightail it down here. We've got an emergency." I come walking into City Hall, and Mark Cotter, who's in charge of Public Works, comes up to me as I'm walking in, says, "Mayor, we've got an emergency. The sanitary sewer line,
I
the
remember
monster
this.
sanitary sewer
I
line,
remember this.
up by, we only have one hill in the entire town. And I'm not talking the Cathedral Hill, Father. There's really, maybe there's 2 hills. One of them is up by the prison, okay? We had a major sanitary sewer line collapse, Aberdeen person, collapsed on itself. And Mark said, "Mayor, if we don't do something, we're going to have 25,000 homes. They're going to have raw sewage in their basements within a couple of hours, especially downtown. And I'm going to get to your. Sorry. Oh. Well, ultimately, Doctor, one of the things that we had to do, one of the things that I had to do as the mayor, Isaac Walton, Jim. I'm a big hunter. I'm a big fisherman. I've got quarters of land that I'm converting into wildlife habitat. I love water. I love air. I love soil. This mayor, right here, 3 months in, 4 months in, made a decision to dump 1/3 of our raw sewage into the Big Sioux River. To try to avoid the worst health catastrophe in our city, in our states, and maybe Midwest history. Because you can only imagine what raw sewage what it does to 25,000 homes in a city of 170. So we made a decision to do that. Make a long story short, we ended up with about 2,000 homes that had the challenge. One of my most exciting and actually enjoyable events is the mayor, because I loved it. Now to answer your question. Once that was done, oh boy, did we have a rally to say, we cannot let this happen again, because we were also having that issue, and we had some homes that were, when it would rain, they'd have issues, flooding issues, or they'd have backups, and then we had people running their sump pumps that were causing other issues. But anyways, what we've done is we have invested millions and millions of dollars into our drainage, into our sewer lines, into our water treatment plants, into repairing all these things that would make us prepared for the next 1,000-year rain event, okay? Including when everybody was sleeping at night, what we did is we took cameras and we went into all the pipes, and we found all of the places in Sioux Falls where we had these 100-year-old pipes where sewage was going through it or water was going through it. And we had roots and trees, and we had them falling apart. And we were trying to find our next big sewage collapse. And so we've invested millions in 7 years to try to get us up to snuff when it comes to that next big rain event. So now, come back. 2 weeks ago, we had a 1,000-year rain event in the city of Sioux Falls. 1,000-year rain event. I don't know, how many calls did we get? 5? 5. It's worth it, but it's expensive. Where was the guy who asked me about the, there you are. There you are. It is so expensive. But just last night at a city council meeting, I had a city councilor who complained about the millions of dollars that we're spending on this and how we raised rates to do it. To do it. Folks, this stuff isn't free. This stuff isn't free. You actually have to pay for it. But instead of looking at it as an expense, you should look at it as an investment, because this is so important, not only for us, okay, but for the future, our kids, our grandkids. It's important. So Aberdeen people, I know that you've got some challenge. I guess the taste of the water is something that you're concerned with in Aberdeen. But yeah, these 1,000-year rain events are coming to Aberdeen too, and I hope you're ready. And I know Watertown has had plenty of battles when it comes to the. Have you had a 1,000-year rain event here?
Not that I'm aware of.
Not that you're aware of. Okay.
We've had some
but
big ones.
That's what we've done, and it's really been wonderful. I'm so proud of the city council, because the council, they have never said no once to raising a rate when it came to our infrastructure, our utilities. It's just been wonderful. However, we're an anomaly, because in most cities across this area, that's the last thing they'll ever allow is a raising of a rate. So how is that? Good. You weren't ready for the sewage story. Not to add, because then after I dumped 1/3 of the raw sewage into the Big Sioux River, and remember, I'm a hunter, fisherman, whatever. There was a tournament, a fishing tournament down in Iowa that they canceled because of our situation in Sioux Falls. So this is a big deal. You talked about cutting off the water. Cutting off the water. We all impact everybody. Watertown, you impact Brookings. Brookings impacts Sioux Falls. Sioux Falls impacts Sioux City, and on down the road. That's just the way that it is. And that's why this Big Sioux River Summit, it's not Mayor Mike's. It's the mayor's Big Sioux River Summit, regardless of what town you're on. But Aberdeen, you're not on the Big Sioux. What the heck are you doing here? Wow. You tell Mayor Leifson I'm proud of him for bringing you here, or whoever did. Thank you. Because it is. It's all of our problem, Doctor. Doctor's right. It's all of our problem. It's all of our opportunity. Sorry, Mayor, did you have any? Sorry.
No, you're fine. You're fine.
this is my last one, so I'm going to go out in flames, all right? So I just thank you. And you can leave if you want, if I'm boring you, or Mayor, you're not boring them, but I
Oh,
probably
no,
am.
I'm not bored.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. Others? Thank you.
For both, if there was one thing that you could do, money, resources, whatever notwithstanding, to improve the water situation for your communities, what would that be?
Oh, man, that's a good one. I would try to restore the natural system, because one of our oldest storm drains, it's over 100 years old, it took the entire creek and put it underground, and people forgot it ever existed as a creek. And people built houses over it, and it's now a floodway, where it used to be above ground, and people are mad. They get their houses in the middle of the floodway. If it burns down, they can't rebuild it. And that was the thinking of the time, was, oh, this is awesome, we can do this, so let's do it. Let's go back to honoring Mother Nature, put our system back into its natural state, and value it and appreciate it. It doesn't have to look ugly. It doesn't have to be full of mosquitoes and stinky. If I had unlimited budget, I'd put nature back.
Well, if I had unlimited budget, I'm a filter strip, buffer strip guy. I just am. In Sioux Falls, right outside of Sioux Falls, we've been partnering with farmers and ranchers to clean up certain areas along the Big Sioux, Skunk Creek, and other tributaries that flow into Sioux Falls. And I just saw these wonderful examples of just what can be done. But then we're driving down the gravel road, and we had probably about 3 miles away from some of the places where we had just been. And then there was probably about a herd of about 70 cattle in that same waterway. And so you're going, boy, did the investment that we make here, was that completely overtaken or overshadowed by that small herd of cattle that was in that waterway? And so for me, if I could do anything, if I could wave a magic wand, it would be, and it kind of ties in with you, let's naturally protect our waterways like we used to do. But it's just, I don't know if it's ever going to happen because it is so expensive. If I could wave a magic wand, doctor, it would be that I could make everybody not take water for granted. Just not take water for granted. But I don't know. I don't know. I don't think that's going to happen in my lifetime. No. It's just, there are certain areas though that they believe it. They believe it internationally. There's all kinds of places where they don't have adequate drinking water. You like to drink it, so do I. Or adequate water to bathe, or adequate water for this or for that. They believe it, but in Sioux Falls and South Dakota and America, we're still quite fortunate.
Yep.
Is that the last one? Well, Mayor, thank you. On behalf of the mayors of the Big Sioux River, this is my last hurrah. I just want to say to the people who put this thing together, who were willing to kind of go with me when we started, I just want to say thank you. And I also want to say thank you to all of you, because you could have easily done something different today, especially the last hour. You could have easily walked away and gone and done something else. But for some reason you stayed. You actually care about this. You're not taking it for granted. And that's a wonderful, wonderful start. And it gives me incentive to do more. And I hope it gives you incentive to do more too. And Mayor, good luck in this journey.
Thank
Go
you.
kick some butt, take some
Yeah.
names, and have a lot of fun along the journey. And people from Watertown, if there's a hot topic, and the critics and the haters and the naysayers are really coming after her hard, you better be there to support her, because they come hard, and they come often, and they never stop. And one of the things that's kind of challenging, are you from the media? You're not. You're from the paper? Well, welcome. I'm glad you're here. Thank you for being here. I appreciate it. One of the things that happens is that sometimes the people who get the most attention are the organized, the most vocal. They're loud. They're passionate. But most of the time, in my 8 years, they're the minority by far. But the media has to give them 50-50 coverage. 50-50, that's just the way it works. And I've learned about that over the years. And I don't know if I agree with it, but I kind of understand it. So in Watertown, if you start to hear these really loud, organized, passionate, vocal people, don't take for granted that they're the majority, okay? And Mayor, that's just some advice for you too. Just keep fighting and do the right thing on behalf of Watertown as a whole versus the organized, vocal, specialized minority, okay?
That's my goal.
Good. Thank you all. Make it a great day. Thanks for welcoming me to Watertown.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Enjoy the journey.